Oh, hello. It's Spirit House here. I'm reading from The Secret of Light by Walter Russell tonight, and I am still continuing the part three, which is this magnetic electric universe. And I'm starting at the part of part three, which is entitled The Inert Gases. The Inert Gases. All right. The octaves of the elements of matter grow from seed, just as all things grow from seed. From the moment the elements unfold from their seed, they are in a constant state of transition, from the beginning of their cycle to the end. Elements are not fixed created things, they are pressure conditions of light waves. Those conditions of light pressures are constantly changing from infancy to old age in the elements of matter, just as they are in the animal kingdom. The inert gases are cosmic elements, which will not combine with any other elements. They constitute the recording system of this creating universe. They surround the zero from which motion springs and to which it returns. They represent minimum motion in the wave, just as amplitudes represent maximum motion. They are the seeds of the octaves of matter, and each octave has a different seed, just as different trees have different seeds. Elements are waves, and waves disappear and reappear. God's recording system does not allow any creating thing to disappear without recording the actions and reactions of its stages of appearance. All states of motion are recorded in the inert gases. In the inert gases are the souls of their bodily manifestations in the universe of motion. In them is desire for expression and the pattern form of that desire. The cosmic inert gases fill all space between the stars of heaven. They insulate states of motion from each other by their balancing zero. They bring all motion into being through the will of the Creator, true to the pattern of desire. They are the source of balancing cosmic rays, which interchange between zero and matter. They vitalize matter with the omnipotence of creative desire, which lies within the zero of these cosmic rays. There are 9 cosmic gases, the first and the last being one. Alphanon begins the cycle and ends it. There is no beginning and no ending. The list of cosmic gases follows: Alphanon, Betanon, Gammanon, Helium, Neon, Argon, Krypton, Xenon, and Niton. And with helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and niton, there's a star, and the footnote indicates those known, those that are known to us, okay, out of all of those. Spectrum analysis. The known octaves which lie within the range of perception are 5 1/2. These begin with a third, or hydrogen octave, and end with the uranium group, which are isotopes of actinium and thorium in the last octave. The invisible octaves of finely divided matter of space are 3 1/2 in number. These octaves are beyond our range of perception, but they are not beyond our knowing. Light is the universal language. Through spectrum analysis of light waves, man has been able to analyze and recognize each element when it is in its incandescent stage. Excuse me. By means of the spectroscope, he has been enabled to divide light rays through its prisms into the component parts which make up the life history of each stage of its two-way cycle. Each element tells the story of its entire previous incarnations in other octaves since its being. Any line in one octave is repeated in the next, but shifted in position because of the changing pressures of each succeeding octave. The spectrum of hydrogen is preponderantly red. A bright red line indicates its present octave. Other red lines tell its past history in lower octaves. The simple history of hydrogen, as compared to the complex spectrum of iron, is like the history of an obscure youth as compared to that of Napoleon. In the spectrum analysis of iron, the lines which belong to iron and those which tell its recent and remote history can be seen at a glance. These lines also indicate the relative ability of the iron atom to charge or discharge. Wavelength 7181.8 is immediately recognizable as belonging to iron in its present octave, 6916.8. It is recent history, and 6944.8 is extremely remote history. Herein follows a partial list of lines whose wavelengths belong to iron or to its immediate midtone associates, and also to other lists indicating its recent and its more remote history. And I'm going to show you this here, so I'm not going to read it off. So you can still the video if you want to look at it. All right. The visible and invisible spectrum is divided into several thousand lines. Each line is different in its shade of color and in its plane. Each line proves that this universe of varying motion is a universe of varying pressures. The elements of matter are not different substances or different things. They are different pressure conditions of light waves. The light units of the elements are all alike, but are differently conditioned by the electric pressures exerted upon them during the inward or outward spiral journey from 0 to 0. The unanswered mystery of how the elements become mathematically precise octave tones, just as musical tones or color tones of the spectrum are mathematically precise in vibration orderliness, lies in the wave field gyroscopic principle. And it doesn't have the figure number here, but if you look back on that cube with a gyroscopic form in it on one of the figures that I did in the last video or showed you in the last video, you'll see it's the gyroscopic principle in the cube. You know, it's the same thing. Anyway, together the 8 elements of an octave form 2 halves of one whole cycle of tones, which ascend from 0 to the 404 principle of amplitude, and then descend again to 0 to begin anew. The spiral journey contracts into greater pressures as it approaches wave field amplitude positions at spiral apices, and expands into lower ones on the return journey to spiral bases. That two-way spiral journey of each half cycle extends between 6 mirrors of still light, which compose the wave field, and winds around a still shaft, which centers the spiral. Okay, so here's another photo of what I was just talking about. Locations of elements on wave fields are determined by wave field mirrors. So, the 3 of action are the inner intersection planes of the cube, and the 3 of reaction are the outer boundary planes of the wave field. All of these planes of the wave field are 0 curvature, but the spiral universe which is forming within those planes is curved. Curved planes of light act as two-way lenses which bind light to focal points and extend it from those focal points radially. As the two-way spirals of forming matter extend from the wave field center in opposite directions toward wave field intersections, the 6 mirror planes of still light focus 3 points of still light upon the still shaft of each half cycle. Centers are formed at these focal points, which become the 1, 2, 3 positive and negative elements of matter by rotating gyroscopically upon the wheels of light, which act as equators for those borning tones. Multiplying and dividing pressures determine the density and volume of each succeeding element. The color spectrum records these pressures as the complete history of every element from octave to octave of the whole 9-octave cycle of the elements. Multiplying pressures of the spiral also affect the curvature of its light lenses to such an extent that the focusing points change their mathematical ratios in conformity with the acceleration of gravity and the deceleration of radiation. The positions of focal centers of gyroscopic wheels upon the wave shaft are thus affected as diagrammed in Figure 76 and Figure 72. Each element is the square of the distance to and from its succeeding one in accordance with its direction. The direction of gravity is the inverse square, and the opposite direction is the direct square. So I'm going to share first Figure 76. That's Figure 76. And then 72. Let me find it. Right here. Carbon, boron, beryllium, lithium, and then on the right side it says fluorine, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon. And then on the bottom, fluorine, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon in the center. And on the right side, boron, beryllium, lithium. The interchange there. So. I didn't mark where I was, so let me find it again. Let me see. Okay, here we are. Okay, the volume of each succeeding element is likewise affected directly and inversely as the cube. 6 of the 8 gyroscopic wheels of the whole octave are thus accounted for by geometric projection of two-way opposed lights through each other, from 2 sets of 3 mirror boundary fields. The 4th double tone is formed at the rest point where 8 cube wave fields meet. This is the point of rest which is known as the center of gravity in Earth's or Sun's, where motion and curvature cease. The completed sphere thus becomes a section of 8 adjoining wave fields and revolves around that point of rest upon the wave shaft where the 2 half cycles of the wave meet at that 0 point, in other words. That's my side note. For this reason, the 404 position is one of balance in which the yellow of orange is the dominating color of one of its 2 gyroscopic wheels and the yellow of green is the other, centered by white. At the 2 points upon the still shaft of the turning sphere, where the shaft penetrates its surface, are the magnetic poles of still light, which control the balance of each sphere's turning. One of these is the north magnetic pole, which controls the winding of the sphere into density by centripetal electric force, and the other is the south magnetic pole, which controls its unwinding centrifugally into space. In a sphere such as our nearly mature sun, these magnetic poles are practically upon the sun's pole of rotation, but upon oblating planets such as our Earth. The magnetic poles are removed from that pole of rotation in accordance with the measure of the Earth's oblateness. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that oblateness means where it bulges at the equator, okay? When it ages, like with Earth, as it ages, it bulges more at the equator than it does at the North and South Pole, okay? So the elements of matter are miniature stellar systems. Every principle and law which applies to one applies to the other. This solar system is a gyroscopic wheel in the position which iron occupies in the elemental series. When it spirals a little further, it will correspond to a carbon atom. The sun will then be a true sphere, and its new planets will also be true spheres. The gyroscopic principle accounts for that law of nature which causes like elements to seek each other. All decomposing compounds are sorted out, element by element, gyroscopically. The efforts of man to transmute one element into another must be governed by this principle, and not upon the theory that another substance will be obtained by knocking out one electron, quote unquote. It makes no difference how many planets there are in the solar or atomic system, insofar as its substance as an element is concerned. One or more added or subtracted would not change the element into another substance any more than one or more children would affect the nationality of their parents. Transmutation will become simplified by observing that the plane of gyration in relation to amplitude and the speed of revolution of the gyroscopic wheel upon its still shaft will alone change volume by either multiplying or dividing density. Great possibilities in new metals lie in the proper application of this principle. And I'm going to conclude this video here. I'll begin the next one with the section of the shape of the universe. I love you all, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.